So what's driving all this? This is Gordon Moore, one of the co-founders of Intel. He and his partners started in 1958. And by 1965, Gordon Moore had noticed something on the chips that they were producing at Intel, the integrated circuits. And he noticed that the number of transistors per piece of silicon per dollar was roughly doubling every 12 to 18 months. And in 1965, he publishes this paper and he goes, this is likely to continue. And it's been known as Moore's Law. And it's continued for 50 years. And I want to show you what that looks like. That's the first integrated circuit, 1958. Here we see two transistors, about a half-inch feature length on each. Let's fast forward to the first commercial product in 1971, the Intel 4004, 2,300 transistors, about $1 each. Now, let's fast forward 45 years to Intel's i7 processor. Here we see a processor that is 330 billion times faster. When you want to understand why the world is getting faster, why we're able to do the things that we do, it's right here. It's that transformation. 330 billion times faster over the course of 45 years. But let me give you another visualization of what this looks like, right? In 1956, this was a hard drive. 5 megabytes, $120,000, and if you happen to have your cargo airplane, you could move it from office to office. Now, we probably noticed when this happened. 2005, here's 128 megabytes for 99 bucks. Pretty extraordinary transformation. But did we notice this? When over the course of 9 years, it went to 128 gigabytes, right on schedule, on Moore's Law, for 99 bucks, 1,000 times better. I'm an investor and an advisor in a nanotechnology company that's focused on doing this 1 billion times better again. Right? We're talking about all of Google's data centers in a sugar cube. And if you look at this is from my partner, Ray Kurzweil. He's a co-founder with myself at Singularity University. This is the computational growth plotted on a log scale over the last 110 years. And what we see here on this curve in 5 paradigms, the last of which is Moore's Law, what Ray calls this is the law of accelerating returns, that we're using faster computers to build faster computers to build faster computers, and it's not slowing down. We don't see World War I or World War II. We don't see boom times or recessions, right? And so if it's likely to continue, what you get is something pretty interesting. See, in 2023, 7 years from now, the average computer we go and buy from Best Buy, if they're still around, is now calculating at 10 to the 16th cycles per second, which a neurophysiologist will tell you that's the rate at which your brain does calculations. So what happens when you can buy a human brain for 1,000 bucks? Well, it doesn't slow down, right? 25 years later, now 1,000 bucks buys you the computational power of the entire human race. Now your kid's homework gets really easy. And what the insight I want to share with you is that these faster, cheaper computers that are going on and on and on are sort of the foundational, growth medium upon which all these other technologies are growing. So as computers are getting thousands and billions of times faster, so are these other technologies. And these technologies, computers, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, AR, VR, synthetic biology, are literally recombining and giving us unexpected convergent consequences. You can be an expert in one area, but actually understanding where these come together and what they do, the new business models, are transforming our planet right here, right now. So the first of these, networks, right? This is the world's population growth over the last 15 years. We've just crossed the 7 billion mark. But if you look at internet penetration, in 2010, we had 1.8 billion people connected on planet Earth to the internet. Today, it's about 2.9. By 2022 to 25, let's call it 8 years from now, we're at a low estimate going to have 5 billion people connected, which means we're adding 3 billion new minds onto the global economy that have never been accounted for before. But that's the low estimate. Why? Because this guy at Facebook, with drones and satellites, wants to connect every single person on the planet. My friends at Google, with Google Loons and satellites and drones, want to connect every single person on the planet. Paul Jacobs, Richard Branson, Greg Weiler have just raised $1 billion to deploy OneWeb, a 648 satellite constellation, in the next 6 years to connect every single person on the planet. And last week, Elon was announcing with SpaceX a 4,000 satellite constellation to connect every single person on the planet. So I want you to imagine in the next 6 to 8 years, not 5 billion, but 8 billion connected people. Not coming online like you and I did, right, on AOL at 9600 baud, right? Coming online with a megabit connection or better, with access to the world's information. We are about to see a massive explosion in innovation like we have not seen yet. Innovation coming from parts of the world that we would have never thought of. 5 billion new thinkers, 5 billion new innovators, 5 billion new creators, problem solvers, entrepreneurs coming online within this next decade. And it's not just people, it's things, right? Last year we had 15 billion connected devices. By 2020, my friends at Cisco talk about the Internet of Things. The low estimate is 50 billion connected devices. And by the way, each one of these devices have a dozen sensors on them. We're talking about heading towards a world of 1 trillion sensors, where everything is being seen and measured and known. Fast forward 10 years later, now we've got 500 billion connected devices, 100 trillion sensors, sensors everywhere, in micro drones, on the fabrics, inside your body, right? Letting us know anything we want, anytime we want, anywhere we want. And oh, those sensors on your body and in your body. We're about to see an explosion in how we think and we connect, we communicate. This is Google's contact lens that's picking up glucose in your tears, which correlates to glucose in your blood. But that's the first step of sort of connecting to your neural system. There are amazing companies right now, like Kernel, a friend of mine, Brian Johnson, one of our benefactors at the X Prize Foundation, one of my investors, has launched $100 million to be able to connect your brain to the cloud. Right? My friend Ray Kurzweil, your brain is a collection of 100 billion neurons with 100 trillion synaptic connections that make you, and me. Now, the last time we had an upgrade of the human brain was 2 million years ago, when we said our large prefrontal cortex sort of exploded and gave us language and art and the ability to think and think in similes in all of these different areas. But as we start to connect the brain to the cloud, we're about to see, for the first time ever, an explosion in human intelligence. Brian talks about, it's not AI versus humans, it's HI. It's the most important asset we can ever have. It's the increase of human intelligence. I love this copy of Time magazine, plugging in the brain into the cloud. But that 2045 is not a right estimate. From the companies I'm seeing, Ray's estimate is by the early to mid-2030s. So imagine when you need additional memory capacity or 1,000 times more intelligence, you can sort of like spool it up like your phone does on the cloud today. But by the way, the early 2030s, oh my God, that's 20 years from now. So what's the world going to be looking like? We heard about AI, whatever version you want, from HAL to Siri to Google Now to IBM Watson. I prefer Jarvis. I think we're all going to have a version of Jarvis. We'll be talking, you'll be listening. You'll give permission to your Jarvis, your personal software shell, to read your emails, watch what you're eating, listen to your blood chemistries, sort of listen to your conversations, because it's giving you all the information you need just in time. And these AIs are also helping us solve the world's grandest challenges. On the Google stage last year, I was with the head of the Watson team from IBM on an X Prize that Amir, one of the co-organizers here, runs, and we're challenging teams to work with AIs to solve the world's biggest problems. We get frightened about grand challenges because we see them from far away, but guess what? The tools and technologies we have to solve these grand challenges is exploding onto the scene. That gives me the greatest hope for the future. AI is our most important tool ever to solve our grand challenges. And besides all of these technologies, we're now beginning to understand the software code of the human species, right? Look at this curve. That white line is Moore's law. It's the increasing power, the reducing costs of computation. That green line is how fast we've gone to sequencing DNA. $100 million to sequence the human genome in 2000 by Craig Venter, 9 months of time. Today, it's down to $1,000 in 2 hours. But it's not just reading DNA. We can now write DNA. We can actually create novel life forms. You can design a life form on your computer, print out a string of DNA, put it into a blank cell, and have it boot up for life. And it's not just writing DNA. CRISPR-Cas9, and unless you buried your head in the sand, you probably have heard about CRISPR-Cas9, right? The ability to edit our own genomes. To have a disease and say, let's edit that away. Think about Word for your genome. Click, paste, repair. One of the implications that I'm focused on is extending the healthy human lifespan. Through genomics and stem cell science, my two companies, Human Longevity and Cellularity, our mission is to add 30 to 40 healthy years onto your life, to give you the aesthetics, the cognition, and the mobility at 60, at 100 that you had at 60. And if you get that, we're heading towards a world of an indefinite lifespan. These are crazy ideas, but they're coming because the tools we have to enable them are accelerating faster than we could possibly know. The second implication I want to close with is the transformation of the human species. We are heading to what I call the formation of a meta-intelligence. And I haven't talked about this publicly, but I want to share it. And I look at a historical analog to see where we're going based on where we have been as life on this planet. 3.5 billion years ago, the first life form was a prokaryote. It was a single bag of cytoplasm with a string of DNA, the simplest life we knew. And over the course of 1 billion years, that prokaryotic life form developed into a complex life form called a eukaryote. And what it did was incorporated into it technology, the mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, that allowed it to process information, energy more efficiently. And so that transformation from a simple life form to a technology-enabled life form is what I believe we are doing right now. As we, as humans, are beginning to incorporate technology into our brains, into our bodies, we're undergoing that same transformation in the first step. The second step that life took was going from eukaryotic life to multicellular life, collaboration. And we are massively collaborating as we go from small tribes, not connected, to tribes connected by the internet, and soon connected by the cloud, where when I think, I can understand in the purest form of empathy what you see, what you hear, what you feel. The third is the emergence of technology, of intelligence. So this is a morula at the early stages of a human embryo. 16 cells that grows in
From Kenya to Colombia, from Iraq to Korea, in slums, in schools, in prisons, and in theaters, every day people gather at TEDx events around the world to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. Today, you are part of a global conversation about our shared future. So what is this TEDx? TEDx is an initiative of the TED Conference, a non-profit devoted to ideas worth spreading. We grant free licenses to allow TED-like events to spread globally. This event today is based on the TED Conference format and ideals, but is independently organized by your local community. So please make sure to thank the team of volunteers who worked so hard on today's event, It's their ideas, dedication, and time that made it all possible. It's they who booked all the speakers, and the views you'll hear today are, of course, those of those speakers, not necessarily of TED's. But we hope their talks spark an exciting conversation among you. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for openness and for critical thinking, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you'll take out. And now, on with the show.
Good evening, and welcome to TEDx GEMS Wellington Academy Al Khail. I'm Melissa Avcı, head girl at the Academy.
And I'm TJ, head boy at this academy.
TJ and I are delighted to be your hosts for this evening.
To launch the proceedings, we would like to invite on stage the organizer of this TEDx conference, Mr. Rohan Roberts, to say a few words. Mr. Roberts is the Director of Innovation and Future Learning at the Academy. He has organized 7 TEDx events in the past. In 2015, for demonstrated excellence as an innovative thinker and doer, he was invited to TED Global in Geneva. Please welcome on stage Mr. Rohan Roberts.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to TEDx GEMS Wellington Academy Al Khail. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us this evening. Now, I'm sure most of you are already aware, but just in case you aren't, I thought I'd say a few words about the difference between TED and TEDx. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. It is essentially the world's premier intellectual conference that brings together the most exceptional thinkers and doers on the planet under the slogan, "Ideas worth spreading." The TED conference has been held annually every year since 1990, and in keeping with its early Silicon Valley origins, the early TED Talks focused primarily on technology and design. However, since then, TED has broadened its perspective to include talks about scientific, cultural, humanitarian, and academic topics as well. Now, those early TED Talks were held behind closed doors and weren't really open to the general public. However, all that changed in 2006 when TED began to offer its videos for free viewing online under a Creative Commons license. And gosh, those TED Talks proved incredibly popular. In 2009, 3 years after TED went online, TED videos had a total of 140,000 views. By 2010, that went up to 23 million views. And by 2011, it reached 190 million views. But by 2012, boom, it hit 1 billion views. That's a textbook example of exponential growth. And what it indicated is that the world has a keen appetite for intellectual ideas. Since 2012, TED conferences have been held annually and have simply been gaining in popularity. And all those videos by those incredible speakers are uploaded on the TED website. That's the story of TED. TEDx, on the other hand, is a grassroots initiative created in the spirit of TED's overall mission of ideas worth spreading. TEDx events are locally and independently organized events under license from TED. Every year, over 3,000 TEDx events are held in 130 countries around the world. Here at the Academy, for the 3rd year now, we have a license to host our own TEDx event, and the theme of today's event is Fast Forward. Humanity is making tremendous progress at a rapid pace. An exciting future awaits us in which artificial intelligence, robotics, synthetic biology, digital manufacturing, and other exponentially growing technologies will enable us to meet and exceed the basic needs of every single person on the planet. We will see more change in the next 2 decades than we've seen in the previous 2 centuries. Today's series of talks aims to take a techno-optimistic view of the future, and the various speakers approach the theme from different perspectives and different angles through fashion, space exploration, the environment, and of course, education. Now, a lot of hard work, research, and thought have gone into today's series of talks, so we really hope you do enjoy the show. I'd now like to leave you with a short video mashup called It's Time for TED. On that note, a very warm welcome once again, and thank you for coming.
Wonder, insight, ideas. It's time for TED.
We can change the world if we defy the impossible.
We have the tools, we have the passion.
We can be more, we can be much more.
Let's turn the world inside out. It's just the beginning.
We have achieved remarkable things. We can be more, we can be much more.
Science is clever, but great creativity is more magical. And now we need that magic, that magic, that magic, that magic.
The miracle of your mind, it's that you can see the world as it isn't. We can imagine the future. We can remember the past. The miracle of your mind, it's that you can see the world as it isn't. We can imagine what it's like to be some other person in some other place. Some other place.
Take a moment, take a breath.
I'm a believer. The science is clear. We have to get off of oil. We owe it to our children and grandchildren. I'm a believer. We can't just drill our way out. We can't just bomb our way out. We're gonna invent our way out. Working together. We need to think big. We need to think cheap. We need to think about the problem differently.
Wonder, insight, ideas. It's time for TED.
The miracle of your mind, it's that you can see the world as it isn't. We can imagine the future. We can remember the past. The miracle of your mind, it's that you can see the world as it isn't. We can imagine what it's like to be some other person in some other place.
Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on.
The city of the future calls on you to see it through. Will you dream with me? Will you dream with me? Will you build with me? Will you build with me?
We have the tools, we have the passion.
We can be more, we can be much more.
I'm a believer.
We can change the world if we defy the impossible.
We have 3 billion new minds coming online to do that which we must do, to do that which we must do.
We need to think big. We need to think cheap. We need to think about the problem differently.
Wonder, insight, ideas. It's time for TED.
The miracle of your mind is that you can see the world as it isn't. We can imagine the future. We can remember the past. The miracle, imagine the future. Remember the past.
Wonder, insight, ideas. It's time for TED.
Our first speaker of the evening is Malavika Chakravorty. Malavika is an exceptional Year 11 student at the GEMS Wellington Academy. She has a strong passion for the culinary arts and medicine. Her ultimate goal is to pursue a career in medicine, driven by a desire to alleviate pain and suffering and make a positive impact on people's lives. Throughout her 6 years at GEMS, Malavika has actively contributed to the school's mental health committee, eco committee, and student council, consistently working towards creating a better and more inclusive school environment.
The title of Malavika's talk is The Fast Fashion Paradox: Why We Need to Slow Down to Move Forward. Fast fashion describes low-price but stylish clothing that moves quickly from design to retail stores to meet trends, with new collections being introduced continuously. Malavika's talk explores why fast fashion is harmful and offers possible alternatives and solutions to it. Please welcome on stage Malavika Chakravorty.
Imagine a world where everyone dresses the same, speaks the same, and thinks the same. It would be a world devoid of individuality and creativity, a world without self-expression. Luckily, we don't live in that world. We live in a world where fashion has become the most powerful tool for self-expression. From the streets of Tokyo to the runways of Paris, fashion has become a universal language that speaks volumes about who we are. I'm sure you've all heard of brands like Bershka, Zara, H&M, Pull & Bear, and Forever 21. These brands have become household favorites as they allow a diverse variety of clothes that allow us to express ourselves in truly imaginative and exceptional manners. It is undeniable that these brands have left an indelible mark on the fashion industry. However, these brands fall under the umbrella of what is known as fast fashion. Fast fashion refers to the practice of creating inexpensive clothing in large quantities rapidly, using low-quality materials and unethical labor practices. And although it may be tempting to buy affordable yet trendy clothing, the true cost of fast fashion is often hidden. Now, in order to explore exactly how fast fashion affects our world, we must first explore how it processes. Fast fashion operates through a highly efficient yet exploitative supply chain. They begin in the designing process, where creators design trendy outfits which are often copied from other designers and send them to be manufactured in countries with low labor costs. Here, people are paid very low wages, and the use of cheap synthetic materials is more than common. Then, these are sent to distribution centers and eventually sold to consumers at very, very low prices. This allows fast fashion brands to constantly release new designs, but it negatively impacts both the workers involved and the environment. One of the primary issues with fast fashion is its significant contribution to waste and pollution. As one of the world's largest polluters, the fashion industry releases a considerable amount of textile waste and greenhouse gas emissions. The production process itself requires an enormous amount of energy, water, and raw materials. For instance, the production of a single cotton t-shirt can require up to 2,700 liters of water. The fast fashion industry also relies on cheap synthetic materials like polyester and nylon. These are derived from fossil fuels and don't biodegrade for decades or even centuries. The use of such low-quality materials eventually leads to the clothing losing their qualities very quickly. This results in clothes being thrown away after only a couple of wears, and therefore overflowing landfills. This releases toxic chemicals into our land and water. This is a wake-up call for us to prioritize sustainability over trendiness and affordability. The fashion industry also relies on cheap labor in developing countries. Workers are subjected to harsh working conditions and paid meager wages. It is vital that we recognize the human cost of fast fashion and advocate for more fairing working conditions in the fashion industry. Now, you must be thinking, why am I talking about fashion when there are so many more pressing issues? Well, as a young adult, fashion is a form of self-expression, one of the only few ones. And it is getting harder and harder to find brands that are sustainable, affordable, yet still aligning with our values. So we must find and create more brands that are socially conscious, ethical, and environmentally friendly. This way, we can express ourselves while also contributing to a healthier world and fairer society. The environmental impact of fast fashion is staggering. And if we continue at this rate, we risk irreversibly harming the earth for future generations, as highlighted by environmental activists like Greta Thunberg. We must prioritize sustainability, not only to protect ourselves, but the earth too. The economic impact of fast fashion is also unsustainable. The focus on high turnover and low prices creates a business model that is inherently unstable and vulnerable to disruption. So in order to prevent destabilizing the fashion industry and the wider economy, we must support long-term sustainability over short-term profits. Although some companies have taken steps to address these issues, it isn't enough. We want to see more. We want to see more sustainable sourcing of fibers like organic cotton or other feasible materials that are grown and processed in environmentally friendly manners. We want to see more companies invest in developing technology that reduces the need for mass-produced clothes, like 3D printing. This reduces our demand for the traditional cut-and-sew techniques. As a person who has witnessed the rapid development of technology, I am confident in its potential. We have seen some impressive advancements over the past couple of years, like Apple, and in online worlds like Minecraft. We even have self-driving cars and AI with unlimited knowledge. I mean, just last year, for the first time ever, we successfully transplanted an animal organ into a human being. So if we can do all of that, we can most definitely make fashion more sustainable. So I envision a new future for fashion, a future through AI and the metaverse. In the metaverse, we can actively see a shift towards digital fashion. Here, people are creating and wearing more virtual clothing, which reduces the need for mass-produced clothes. If we continue at this rate, AI can revolutionize the fashion industry with more personalized clothing designs. However, we don't need to solely rely on new technology in order to make a change. We can take steps in our daily lives that can reduce the negative effects of fast fashion. For example, we can start by buying fewer clothing and making them last longer. This reduces our demand for fast fashion and in turn the amount of clothes that end up in landfills. We can also recycle, upcycle, and even donate our clothes instead of just throwing them away. Like in my family, every year we collect our clothes and deposit them in these donation boxes. Reducing the effects caused by fast fashion requires a collective effort from brands, consumers, and policymakers. So let's redefine fashion's narrative. Let's make sustainability and ethical practices the new trend. Let us remember that each garment of clothing has a story, not just of its production, but one of the impact it leaves behind. The time for change is now, and each one of us has a part to play. So wear your values proudly. The fashion revolution starts with you.
Our next speaker is Garv Lamba. Garv is a Year 11 student at the Academy with a profound fascination with space and the cosmos. This has driven him to immerse himself in extensive research on the subject. Garv aspires to become an astrophysicist and is inspired by brilliant minds such as Neil deGrasse Tyson and Stephen Hawking, whose contributions to the field have inspired countless scientists and enthusiasts alike. He wants to help ensure a stable and secure future for humanity that lies beyond our planet.
The title of Garv's talk is Our Destiny Among the Stars, Exploring Humanity's Future in Space. Space is the next big frontier for humanity. The first human mission to Mars will take place in our lifetime. Garv Talks explores the reasons why we should explore space and what new mindsets and values we need as an interplanetary species. Please welcome on stage Garv Lamba.
Throughout our history, humans have had one trait that has defined them over all others. And that's our insatiable desire to explore. We've always searched for new places to conquer and colonize. From the earliest cavemen who ventured out in search for food and shelter, to the sailors who sailed across oceans and carved out new territories on every continent. We've always pushed the boundaries of what we know and what we can do. But now we're about to take this impulse of exploration to its greatest extreme yet as we look beyond our planet. We are on the brink of a new age of exploration, one that will take us beyond the limits of our own world. Our universe is so incredibly vast that it's hard to even comprehend its scale. And that's because we live in a small and insignificant dot in the vastness of the universe. As a child, and even now, whenever I would look up at the stars, I would gaze at them for hours without any sense of time. It was truly transcendent to me. As I grew older, I started to realize that the universe was sort of like a puzzle. I was staring at a piece of this puzzle every time I looked up. And now we're in the process of solving it every time we discover a bit of what lies beyond our planet. This concept of a cosmic perspective can be both humbling and inspiring. It makes us realize just how incredibly small we are in the grand scheme of things. And yet, it also shows us the potential that we have to grow and explore. It's also important to understand just how quickly we've been able to progress in space exploration. Think about this for a second. The iPhone in all of your pockets right now has over 100,000 times the processing power of the computer that was used to send a man on the moon 50 years ago. The journey to put a man on the moon was also one of the fastest trips ever in the history of humanity. And one of the reasons for that was because it was just a race to see who gets there first between the Americans and the Russians. Just think about all the technological advancements that we've made since then. Now, one of the key benefits of colonizing other planets is that it could potentially shift our focus from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. Now, what do I mean by that? Right now, the limited resources that we have here on Earth can make us feel like we have to make the most of what we have and that there's not enough room for growth. But if you think about it, the idea of colonizing other planets proves to us that there is a possibility of having so many resources that never again will a human face starvation or homelessness. I want you to imagine this world, a world where we have unlimited access to food, water, shelter, and land. This is not just a pipe dream, but it's a reality that is within our reach. Now, to achieve this abundance mindset, the discovery of new resources is key. What you see on the screen right now is the concept of a Dyson sphere, which is basically a huge hypothetical megastructure that can potentially harness the solar energy of a star and provide us with an unlimited source of energy. Now, while the structure may be too big for it to be a feasible reality as of yet, there are other projects that are currently underway that make use of the energy available in space, such as the International Space Station. The International Space Station has solar panels that convert the sun's solar energy into electrical energy to power the station's systems and experiments. NASA's Mars rovers also use the sun's solar energy to operate on the surface of Mars, as they have no access to traditional power sources. Companies such as Planetary Resources are also working on developing technologies that can mine valuable minerals from asteroids. These examples show us that the power of space exploration is already in the palm of our hands. All we have to do now is create a home for ourselves amongst the stars. Now, you may be asking, what is the point of all of this? Don't we have enough problems here on Earth that we should solve first before investing all of our time and money into space? And you would be right, except there are a number of advantages to space exploration. Space exploration expands our knowledge and understanding of the universe, creates economic opportunities, and most of all, serves as a backup plan in case of any cosmic disasters on Earth, such as the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs nearly 65 million years ago. So it's important to understand that there's a sense of urgency in exploring space. Climate change, natural disasters, and other threats to humanity's survival make it more important than ever for us to have a backup plan and ensure our survival as a species. As you all probably know, Mars is likely to be the first planet that we colonize. And that's because it's a self-sufficient planet with resources such as water and minerals that make it viable for human presence. As time goes on, we can expect to see a number of industries develop on Mars, such as eco-preserves, agriculture, and tourism. Mars also presents a unique opportunity to create a new society, one that learns from the experiences we've had here on Earth and grows from them in order to create a better future for ourselves and future generations. When I was younger, I remember messing up a couple of times. I would then, as you all probably have as well, ask my parents for a second shot. If you think about it, this is exactly what we've got on Mars. One of the key lessons that we can learn from our experiences on Earth is not to repeat the same mistakes in space. We have to make sure not to repeat the same political, social, and environmental mistakes, and really understand the impact that our presence in space could have. We all know how we've messed up on different areas on Earth. So let's use this second chance and really be mindful of where things can go wrong and how we should keep in the right direction. I traveled to Japan recently, and while I was at the airport waiting for my flight, I took a look at the flight list. I kind of just stood there in awe in how easy it is now to soar through the skies and reach new destinations in a matter of hours. But the notion of public flights was not even considered by even the greatest of minds until 1914, which is when the first public flight took off. And while that was an amazing achievement that marked a milestone in human history, it pales in comparison to the iconic occasion in 1961, which is when humanity first ventured out into space. But the journey doesn't end there, because with fast advancements in space technology, the flight list that we currently look at is soon to become list of spacecrafts. Space tourism is on track to become a commonplace activity, with journeys to other planets becoming an everyday occasion. And the interesting thing is, it'll cost much less than what we all are thinking right now because of the fuels that we acquire from space. Similar to how flight costs have dramatically decreased over time, space tourism is going to become more affordable and within reach for the average person. So the next time you're at an airport waiting for your flight, this summer probably, keep in mind that the sky is no longer the limit. The universe is. Now, while scientists and engineers focus on the technical aspects of space travel, we need all of you, writers, artists, and musicians, to imagine and build the future human societies that will exist on these distant planets. Your creative minds will play a vital role in crafting the social, cultural, and even spiritual aspects of these new worlds. You will help us develop new forms of storytelling and entertainment that resonate with the experiences of space travel. You will help us envision new forms of architecture, art, and fashion that reflect the unique environments of these distant planets. You will help us create new rituals and traditions that bind us together as a community and give us the sense of purpose and belonging. And most of all, you will make sure that the future of human presence in space is not just about surviving, but about flourishing, where the human spirit can thrive in even most extreme and challenging environments. So as we venture out into the cosmos, we have to keep in mind that we're not just discovering new worlds, but also creating new ones. And the involvement of all of you is essential to this journey. The future of human presence in space is going to have an incredible impact in our everyday lives and the future of our world. So let's take action in supporting its development. Whether it's through advocacy, education, or investment, each of us can play a vital role in shaping the future of our species. When you go home today, you could, of course, forget about everything I've just said, but you could also take steps in educating yourself about this future. Think about how a farmer who has been planting crops in the same small plot of land his entire life, who discovers a vast new field that he never knew existed. We too have the potential to discover new frontiers and unlimited resources beyond our planet. So the next time you're doing your homework or going about your daily routine, keep in mind that the future of human presence in space is in your hands, because it is this generation that will make it happen. I would like to leave you here today with a sense of hope and inspiration. Let's embrace the abundance mindset and work together to create a bright future for all of humanity. We are on the brink of a new age of exploration, one that will take us beyond the limits of our own world.
Our next speaker is Khail. Kashish is an outstanding United student at the Academy who has a strong passion for artificial intelligence and psychology. As a career, she would like to pursue psychology to create a more inclusive society and bring positivity into people's lives. She has committed to multiple school leadership roles, such as House Leaders and Student Council, to bring innovative ideas to the school.
The title of Kashish's talk is Redefining Humanity, the Cyborgs and Post-Humans of Tomorrow. Human beings are increasingly able to overcome our biological limitations and augment ourselves with a range of emerging technologies. Kashish's talk explores the role of creativity and art in a post-human future. Please welcome on stage Kashish Khail.
Perhaps the DC character, the Terminator, or even some morbid, half-machine creature that would set the Earth on fire. But what if I told you that cyborgs were a positive change? Soon after, post-humanity will be the next step in our evolution. We will live in a world where we have transcended the limitations of our biology, a world where we have merged with technology, pushing the boundaries of our physical and cognitive abilities. A cyborg is someone who has enhanced abilities due to an electronic implant. With that being said, those of you with pacemakers, cyborgs. Those of you with prosthetic limbs, also cyborgs. Perhaps the term cyborg has negative connotations. We could refer to them as post-humans instead. Post-humanity may seem like a distant reality, one that could theoretically happen, but what many of us don't realize is that it's almost here. The core feature of post-humanity is the ability to use technology to improve a particular function or action. The technology we are experiencing currently is just a fraction of what is yet to come. Imagine being able to upload your consciousness to the cloud, or having a neural implant allowing you to learn new things at an exponential rate. This is the kind of technology that will propel us into our next step of evolution. It may seem as if post-humanity will make us lose touch with our creativity, including things such as art, music, and theater, or even essential human habits such as friendly conversation. However, by integrating technology with our lives, we can enhance our ability to be creative, and perhaps even deepen our creativity. In fact, currently, some artists use AI to create exceptional pieces of artwork, far surpassing in detail than any we could ever create, and I've seen this in the music and theater industries as well. One such example is Moon Ribis, a cyborg artist best known for developing the seismic sense, an online seismic sensor that allows her to perceive earthquakes in real time. Ribis then transposes this into sound and dance on stage. Developments in cyborg technology have reached extreme heights. An example is the brain-computer interface, or BCI. A BCI is a device that allows the brain to communicate directly with the computer or other electronic device, bypassing the need for physical interface entirely. Cyborg technology can also improve our cognitive functions, including things such as our creativity, decision-making, and problem-solving. A family member of mine uses a DBS, a device consisting of thin metal wires that send electrical pulses to her brain, allowing her to control her motor functions. In the post-human era, we will no longer solely be defined by our biology, but by our ability to transcend it. And with the suitable safeguards in place, we can harness our power and improve the quality of life for millions of people. This can allow us to revolutionize our society, allowing us to create new frontiers in science, art, and culture. As well as this, we would become more accepting and empathetic individuals. This, combined with our latest technology, would create an unstoppable race of human beings with extreme intellect and emotion. The line between humans and machines is becoming increasingly blurred. And while some may be wary of the potential downsides, there are several reasons why post-humanity is a positive thing for our evolution. Firstly, it can greatly improve our physical enhancements. Prosthetics, for example, have come a long way in recent years, with the release of new technology and materials allowing for greater mobility. As technology continues to evolve, we may even see the release of fully functional bionic limbs, which are as good, if not better, than their biological counterparts. This would be a game changer for amputees and those with disabilities, allowing them to lead more fulfilling and active lives. Embracing our cyborg future could allow us to tackle some of humanity's greatest challenges including global warming, as well as pandemics, as we've all recently seen. By integrating technology with our bodies and minds, we can improve our ability to work and communicate remotely, which would allow us to slow the spread of infectious diseases, such as COVID, as well as reduce our carbon footprint. Soon, we will see the release of more advanced networks, such as the Internet of Nano Things, the quantum internet, and the metaverse. This will give way to the next generation of cyborg-like transhumans with cloud-connected synthetic neocortex, to whom the metaverse would be a more manageable extension. A new digital habitat leading to the next generation of post-biological infobeings. To facilitate this new race, we would need to transition into a multi-planetary species, thus giving us the name Homo galacticus. As Homo galacticus, we would need to shift our physical forms and culture to be more space-centric rather than Earth-centric. We would begin to see developments in this through Mars rovers and bases on the moon. When our inevitable shift from the Earth occurs, we may receive many benefits, such as allowing us to make contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, as well as live amongst them. We will have access to more resources as well as new ones, allowing us to create new solutions to the problems we currently face. Lastly, it would eradicate the worry of lack of resources and population control, as we would have access to plenty. I'd like to conclude with a sense of hope and excitement for the future. I am a techno-optimist, and I believe that we are at the cusp of a transformative era. By harnessing our technological advancements, as well as embracing our potential as a post-human species, we can transcend the biological limitations that have held us back. I envision a future that is more innovative, more compassionate, more creative than ever before. So, let us embrace this remarkable journey and marvel at what we might one day become.
Our next speaker is Dimitri Andronikos Amiris. Dimitri is an exceptional UNAD student who likes to explore the transformative potential of generative AI in education. He envisions a future where AI-powered personalized learning empowers students, fostering creativity and critical thinking while revolutionizing the education landscape globally.
The title of Dimitri's talk is Learning Without Limits, Generative AI in Education. Generative AI may well be the biggest drivers of human productivity since the industrial age. Dimitri's talk explores how it can be used in educational context and why it's necessary to employ AI tools in teaching and learning. Please welcome on stage Dimitri Andronikos Amiris.
The end of an era. We have been the only ones capable of creating new art, music, literature, and even video games. But with the rise of generative AI, that is all about to change. Machines can now learn from vast amount of data and generate new content independently. It's as if we're witnessing the birth of a new era, where computers can do things we never thought possible. Generative AI is an artificial intelligence that can make new things, like writing, images, or music by learning from data. It works like a creative computer that can figure out patterns in its information and generate new outcomes. We stand no longer restrained by our imaginations or skill sets, and we can employ generative AI to generate new ideas and things you would have never have imagined otherwise. One fantastic thing that generative AI can do is help us with our schoolwork, making learning more fun and personalized for each of us. For example, if you're having trouble with math, a generative AI could generate practice problems that match your skill level and topics you need to work on. Or if you're learning a new language, it could generate conversations and quizzes that help you learn more naturally and engagingly. So, generative AI is still relatively new, and only some are aware. But that doesn't mean we can't use it to our advantage. I'm not the best writer, and guess what? Generative AI has helped me write some parts of this TEDx talk. And I'm sure you've all heard of it. Drum roll, please. ChatGPT. You've all heard of it, and don't act like you haven't used it to help you on an assignment. We've all done it. Suggesting we rely on AI for everything is terrible advice, but using it correctly can be a valuable resource. For instance, if you're stuck on a creative writing assignment, it could generate ideas that you could transform into your own. One of the more innovative applications of generative AI in my school life is within writing projects. It has helped me improve my writing skills tremendously. Whether it's in an essay or a creative writing assignment, AI has been invaluable in helping me with Shakespearean language translation, grammar checking, and enhancing the flow and tone of my work. By providing these corrections and suggestions, AI has pushed me to become a more effective and expressive writer. Another exciting application of generative AI within my academic life is within my projects. When I'm making PowerPoint presentations, I use generative AI to generate content, find the most suitable images, and even help design the slides. Additionally, AI has made coding projects more accessible by providing examples, troubleshooting issues, and generating code snippets. It has also aided in the unique creation of images and artworks for various assignments through its picture generation capabilities, allowing me to make my projects more visually appealing and engaging. As I mentioned, generative AI has revolutionized my learning experience by offering personalized assistance in various aspects of my school life. But this is only how I'm using generative AI. How can my teachers use it? Generative AI for teachers can be a valuable resource for when creating quizzes and questions. By inputting specific topics or learning objectives, teachers can generate various questions ranging from multiple choice to open-ended. This saves time and allows educators to craft assessments better suited to their students' needs and abilities. By integrating generative AI within education, we're not only making complex ideas more accessible, but also transforming the outdated system, nurturing critical thinking and problem-solving abilities in students for a brighter future. The educational system has remained relatively stagnant since the Victorian era. With traditional classrooms, with its rows of desks and one-way flow of information being an antiquated model that stifles creativity and collaboration. Instead, we need a change that will enable students to adapt effectively, meaningfully to society. I believe that now is a time for us to reevaluate the emotional and physical environment of the classroom itself. With traditional classroom, again, still emphasizing memorization and regurgitation of facts. Instead, A more dynamic and flexible learning space is needed, where students can engage in hands-on activities and interact with technology. By reimagining the classroom structure, we can create a more conducive environment that fosters a sense of curiosity, collaboration, and ownership in the learning experience. Generative AI, such as GPT-4, GPT-5, GPT-6, can revolutionize education, going beyond mechanical learning, enhancing students' engagement within research, data analysis, and problem solving. By integrating this technology within education and teaching ethical use, we are paving the way for an educational renaissance. And I, for one, look forward to when that happens.
Next up, we have our first teacher speaking of the evening, Ms. Heather Broderick. In addition to being a teacher in our school, Ms. Heather is a leadership coach committed to workplace well-being and helping companies and leaders to support their workforce and reduce overwhelm, stress, and burnout. As a strong advocate for mental health awareness, she's passionate about helping people to feel supported, challenged, and valued in the workplace, and ultimately happier and fulfilled in their lives.
The title of her talk is People Over Profit, Reimagining Work in a Post-Pandemic World. In a post-pandemic world, the dynamics of the workplace are changing, along with new generation of workers who no longer accept poor work conditions or unempathetic leadership. Heather's talk looks at how businesses and individuals have a dual responsibility to prioritize the well-being and create a culture of wellness and improved happiness for the workplace, productivity, and ultimately profit in the years to come. Please welcome on stage Ms. Heather Broderick.
pandemic forced you to reevaluate your career or stress levels? Perhaps you loved working from home and the flexibility it offered. Perhaps time away from the workplace helped you understand your values and what you wanted from your job. Or perhaps you decided you needed a complete 180 into a new career or business. The COVID pandemic instigated many of us into the COVID pandemic instilled in many of us an undeniable fear and anxiety around health and work. People were losing jobs, companies were going under, and employees didn't know if they would have a job by the end of the week. When lacking security in our role, productivity will inevitably suffer as a result of our basic needs not being met, making working to our maximum potential literally impossible. The start of 2021 saw what is known as the Great Resignation, where millions of people around the world resigned from their roles. This continued into 2022, where 50.5 million people in the USA alone resigned. I was part of this Great Resignation when I left my 16-year career in education to retrain as a career and leadership coach with the sole purpose of helping people find fulfillment and happiness in the workplace. During lockdown as a teacher, I loved working from home. The peace, the quiet, the flexibility, fitting in a coffee between lessons, seeing my family for lunch, and having a shower at break instead of at 5:30 in the morning was complete freedom for me, and I wanted this as my lifestyle. It also helped me realize what an introvert I am, and the noise of being around people all day drained my productivity levels. The pandemic helped me gain insights into what I wanted from my career and the conditions that I work best under. I am a prime example of how the pandemic forced millions to reimagine, reevaluate, and reflect on their career choices. The way that leaders handled COVID in the workplace and treated employees during this uncertain time greatly impacted their decisions to stay loyal or leave and seek alternative employment. Pay and conditions remains the #1 reason why people quit a job, but according to an article in Inc. magazine, the primary reason for mass resignation is burnout. Burnout is an occupational phenomenon caused by chronic unresolved stress and categorized by physical and mental exhaustion, increased negativity towards the role, and decreased productivity. Burnout cost the US economy in 2022 alone $350 million due to high turnover of staff, decreased productivity, and illness. The World Health Organization estimates the cost of burnout worldwide at $1 trillion annually. So what can we do? What can we do as individuals and leaders to reduce stress levels and help businesses back to ultimate productivity? The answer is to prioritize wellness. And by prioritize, I mean invest in it. Whether we invest time, money, or resources, it needs to move to the top of every workplace's list, because without dedicated, motivated, and healthy employees, a company will never bring in optimum profit. The issue arises, however, when it comes to responsibility. Who is responsible for this prioritization? Is it up to companies to provide training, wellness initiatives, and promote healthy living within the workplace, or the individual? What good is a free yoga class and some detox water if an employee is turning up for work grieving a family member? What good is a team building activity to reduce stress if an employee is suffering from depression? What good is some free counselling sessions if an employee will not admit they have a mental health problem? And what good is providing healthy food in the canteen if an employee is suffering from an eating disorder? What I propose to you today is that it's a dual responsibility, and without dual action, there will always be more work to do. We could be the most healthy individual in the world with a great support network, healthy habits, and good health, but an excessive workload, toxic boss, and negative work culture will cause serious health issues if not addressed. Similarly, we could have the best workplace in the world, where we're valued and challenged, given autonomy to do our job, and supported. But it will not matter if we struggle to sleep each night, crippled with anxiety. So, here are 3 things each party can do to see a productivity peak in employees. Companies and leaders need to embed a clear well-being strategy into their ethos, integrate wellness initiatives to promote good physical and mental health, and create a caring culture based on strong relationships, empathy, and effective leadership. This strategy should be lived and breathed by everyone in the company and should be preventative rather than reactive. It should start as soon as an employee joins a company and finishes when they leave. It should include things such as a manageable workload, clearly defined job descriptions, fair pay, and opportunities for personal growth. The culture should be transparent and supportive with a clear vision and open communication. Additional perks such as gym memberships, training, wellness initiatives, and healthy food in the canteen all embed the ethos that wellness is integrated throughout the very veins of the company. Offering counselling funded through work or by work, coaching and mentoring programs, or training around how to deal with stress, anxiety, and change also creates an atmosphere with a focus on the importance of good health. Relationships literally make or break companies. Toxic teams, leaders, and cultures can drive out the most efficient workers, and effective leaders can play their role in the retention of high-quality talent. Companies must value and support employees with a focus on people first and then profit. On the other hand, as individuals, we need to create a lifestyle for success, be aware of our own mental health, and create strong boundaries at work and at home. We need to ensure our basic physiological needs are being met: sleep, hydration, diet, and stress management. Going to work tired, hungry, or angry is a surefire way to work at a lower level than our potential. Mental health can impact our work more so than physical health, but it can at times go unnoticed if masked well. We have an individual responsibility to seek help and not let it affect our performance at work. Feeling unsafe in body or mind is second on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, showing that little to no effective work can take place while in this state. Boundaries are also important for relationships and burnout because we need to put limits on our time, energy, and effort. Creating boundaries such as not answering calls after a certain time or not responding to emails all help with work-life balance and help make us feel more in control. If we're being pulled in too many directions through our family life or our hobbies, this also needs to be addressed. The key is to focus on what makes us feel good with zero internal conflict. Well-being is not a tick box activity. It's not putting a well-being week on the calendar and moving all the meetings to the following week. It's not showing appreciation through donuts and coffee, and it's not a generic well-being survey. It also will never work if leaders allow others to engage in a toxic or negative culture. Well-being is caring, valuing, and appreciating all employees with a focus on their goals and supporting their progress. So, for the leaders among us, we get out what we put in. We cannot expect a high return on investment if we're not investing in the health, happiness, and morale of our employees. We need to nurture relationships and ensure our employees feel safe, valued, and healthy. For the employees among us, we cannot expect to excel in our role if we're not taking steps to look after our health. We will lack focus, make mistakes, and work at a lower level of our productivity. Sleep more, eat a healthy diet, and cut down on harmful habits. We must also nurture relationships at work and home and create strong boundaries to help us feeling safe and confident. Employees will often sacrifice better pay and conditions if they're supported, have a great team to work with, and are given autonomy to do their role. It's normal for us all at times to turn up for work feeling tired, stressed, angry, or frustrated, but instead of blaming work, we have a responsibility to find a way to feel happier within ourselves. It's this dual responsibility between employer and employee which will ensure that companies retain the best staff, promote a positive reputation, recruit the best employees, and ultimately produce more profit through maximum productivity. People are the vehicles that drive the profit, but well-being is the fuel that starts the engine. The sooner that companies realize this and start investing in high-quality fuel, the sooner that burnout will stop being a leading cause of mass resignation. So as I come to the end of this talk, I would like to reiterate that prioritizing people is essential for a successful and sustainable workplace. It's time to embrace a brighter future where we prioritize well-being both at work and at home, and where taking care of our health becomes synonymous with taking care of business. So whether we're an employee, a leader, or both, we have a dual responsibility to take care of ourselves and others, and this is the workplace reimagined in a post-pandemic world.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now take a short 5-minute comfort break. The washrooms are at the back of the auditorium.
Please don't go too far away. We will start promptly in 5 minutes.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for our final 5 speakers of the evening. Up next is Naval Ghazanfar. Naval is a Year 11 student at the GEMS Wellington Academy, where she is a prefect. Naval aspires to become a physicist. Her interests lie in math, literature, cinema, and all forms of art that inspire her. She hopes that one day she will be able to set up institutes for physics and math in areas where students do not have access to quality education and be able to contribute to society. One of Naval's firm beliefs is that it is essential to have bold discussions to be able to bring about any change in society.
The title of Naval's talk is Climate Justice: Why Sustainability Must Be Inclusive. Climate justice is a concept that addresses the division, fair sharing, and equitable distribution of the burdens of climate change. In her talk, Naval explores the responsibilities of different nations in dealing with climate change and offers solutions to promote equity. Please welcome on stage Naval Ghazanfar.
A 30-year-old man who lives in Sindh, Pakistan. One July morning, the screams of the villagers woke Ali up in the house where he had spent his entire life. As he rushed out, Ali witnessed his entire field of crops, his livelihood drowned in water. Without thinking, Ali grabbed the arm of his wife, carried his 3-year-old son on his shoulder, and ran out with the villagers, as more than half of his body was underwater. A few minutes later, the realization hit him. Ali had lost all his possessions in this flood. His eyes filled with tears. This is not just Ali's story. This is the story of 33 million people from my country, Pakistan, as the worst floods of the country's history hit us in 2022. In a matter of days, 1/3 of the country was underwater. And this was a man-made catastrophe. As we speak, countries like Bangladesh, Somalia, the Philippines are under the same threat. Notice a pattern? Yes. All of these countries are developing countries with much smaller industries and emissions compared to developed countries like the USA, one of the largest contributors of the global carbon emission. Then why is it that they suffer the most? Is it just? Is it fair? No, it's not. And we need to fix this now, before it's too late. Now, the topic of climate change is not new, and you've probably heard about it millions of times before, and don't want to be lectured by another 17-year-old. However, what I'm here to highlight today is that the effect of climate change is not the same for everyone. According to the World Meteorological Organization, 91% of the deaths caused by the climate crisis since 1970 occurred in developing nations. We have failed to deliver social justice once again. Now, the truth is that there is work being done to counter these issues. People started becoming more aware of the problem after the Kyoto Protocol of 1997. As the threat became more real, climate change became a political agenda in the developed world. It then led to government regulations like carbon tax, or even creating global market opportunities for businesses to reduce their emissions and become more efficient. The International Financial Corporation states that businesses tend to gain $12 trillion a year in market opportunities by becoming more sustainable. But the problem still stands. Despite these efforts to counter these issues, the effect is much larger. We cannot match the speed of this destruction. And climate change does not care who contributes the most. In fact, today, the smallest contributors are at the highest risk. This is why I demand climate justice, an idea that all countries and communities should be treated equitably, especially those who face disproportionate effects of climate change. Firstly, we need to counter issues in the developed world to arrest climate change. However, we have seen a lot of greenwashing on the money spent in these initiatives. Now, what is greenwashing? Greenwashing is basically when big businesses paint a false picture of sustainability to sell their products to us, when in reality they have no real impact whatsoever. By doing this, they are able to satisfy governments and all of us as consumers, all the while saving millions of dollars and building an eco-friendly reputation. My argument is that instead of wasting this money into greenwashing, direct it towards mandatory reparations. Tie the recognition of green investment to mandatory work in affected parts of the world to restore them. For example, if I am a European multinational, I should not be able to gain carbon tax credits based on the money solely spent on green operations in Europe. But instead, I should be forced to spend part of that money in South America, Africa, Asia, as the global South is the most affected in this race of industrialization. By doing this, we will be able to create a balance between stopping climate change and healing affected nations across the globe. We will also be able to raise awareness in these affected communities so they can adapt sustainable practices in the early stages. And we can save the earth from what we have seen in the name of industrialization in the developed world. Now, we also need to ensure equitable representation in international climate negotiations by amplifying the voices of the developing nations, and also by addressing the existing power imbalances. Our changing climate does not just threaten our natural world. It profoundly jeopardizes the fundamental rights of the most sustainable, the susceptible among us. Our right to life, our right to good health, and our right to a safe and secure living environment. The necessity of climate reparations isn't just about rectifying our past mistakes. It's also about securing the fundamental freedoms that belong to every single one of us. Now picture this, a world that stands on the firm pillars of sustainability. The lands of our earth united in the common pursuit for clean energy. Each individual having equal access to good food and a secure living condition. The burdens and benefits of our climate distributed equitably across all societies, cultures, and communities. The laughter of our children, free from the worries of environmental crises, echoing in our schools and our parks. Think about what it would be like to have a future where every new generation is born into a world of vitality, a world they can trust, a world that provides for them, just as nature intended. This vision isn't just a fantasy. It's a future that we must strive towards. It's a future that requires courage, commitment, and collective action. But above all, it's a future that begins with us today.
Our next speaker is Mahmoud Morsi. Mahmoud is a Year 10 student and self-proclaimed programming nerd with contributions to high-profile open-source projects like Node.js and Rust. He has a strong passion for all things relating to computer science, but also enjoys debate and political literature. He takes an optimistic view of society and humanity's capability to adapt.
The title of Mahmoud's talk is From Me to We, a new vision for social media. Most social media platforms are focused on the wrong direction. Their design underpins flawed ideas that don't serve society. Mahmoud's talk explores how we need to reform social media to serve not just the individual, but the society as a whole. Please welcome on stage Mahmoud Morsi.
What is social media? Really, think about it. When we dissect the word, we get social, as in relating to society, and media, the plural form of medium. So essentially, social media platforms should be a means or a medium for us to interact with society. And all of you here use social media, so I'd like to ask you, why is social media perceived as the epitome of asocial, unproductive time waste? Well, initially, I thought it was because we were using it incorrectly. And don't get me wrong, that does play into it a lot. I mean, we have masses of children growing up in a world where their parents had never even seen social media. Governments, unprepared for this rapid change. Heck, my dad had never even seen a computer up until he'd finished college. Our internet world has problems, but the deeper I delved, the more I wondered, is society ready for social media, or is social media ready for society? When I stepped back to take a look, I realized that it wasn't us. It wasn't parents, it wasn't teachers, it wasn't governments that were failing. Social media was essentially priming us for failure and toxicity. I thought we were using it incorrectly because we weren't playing around its bad design, but when nearly every single platform, including Google search itself, has some kind of echo chamber or filter bubble or other form of algorithmic bias to fight against you and your search for the truth, can you really be put to blame? So that's why I've come before you all here today, not to look at what is going wrong. Fortunately, many people have already outlined that for me before. I wanted to see why it was going wrong. And my conclusion? Social media isn't focused. Either it lacks focus in certain areas, or even worse, it misdirects it entirely, leading to an even worse outcome. I think it all starts with social media's misdirected focus on the individual instead of society as a whole. To be more specific, social media tries to entertain you instead of trying to connect you with society. As a byproduct of this misdirected focus, you're going to be driven into drama, hatred, and general controversy because the algorithm is striving to keep you engaged and on the platform for as long as possible. But here's the thing, this approach is purely asocial and is of absolutely no use to society. Social media essentially forgets the social part entirely in an effort to keep you on the platform for as long as possible. It loses focus of its real goal. Focus needs to be shifted away from the individual and more towards the whole. Stop thinking like one user, think like multiple. I believe that this framework of thinking was the primary idea that drove social media development. Indeed, most products are designed this way, focusing on only one person, one individual. But the social world does not work this way. You can't take social life and turn it into a one-way exchange focused on only one person without severe repercussions. To shift focus away from the individual and more towards the whole, designers at social media platforms and executives at social media platforms need to start considering social media's duty as a part of our social world, which right now is just not happening. The new goal of connecting instead of entertaining will help alleviate the digital world's greatest problems. Platforms like YouTube are introducing features like NewTube that shake up what the algorithm usually recommends to you. And platforms like Twitter have started open sourcing vital parts of their platform, like the algorithm, which should help drive forward change and deliver content to you that challenges your critical beliefs and inspires critical thinking. But then there's also another issue, also related to focus. Social media lacks separation of concerns. It tries to devour almost all exchanges that happen on the internet, attempting to engorge almost all internet life. But the physical world does not work this way. In the physical world, there is a physical separation of concerns. A shop is for shopping, a library is for research, a swimming pool is for swimming. These social spaces are focused. They do one thing and do it well. I'm a bit of a programming nerd, and there was this very popular philosophy adopted by AT&T when they were developing their operating system, Unix. And it was to do one thing and do it well. You can see this throughout almost all of their tools. There is one tool for one job, and this usually creates the best possible version of a tool. Social media does exactly the opposite. Whether it's on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, the possibilities for discussion are virtually limitless, with varying degrees of formality or informality to navigate depending on the topic at hand. Social media doesn't do one thing really well, it does a lot of things and does them poorly. I believe it is due to this that we get desensitization. Think about all the kinds of content that you might find on your feed. One type of content is the awful events happening in our world right now. Wars are being waged. People are starving. The climate is changing. But next to that information, what would you also find? Perhaps a cooking guide, a cat video, a meme. All of this additional noise detracts from the value of the information that you're actually receiving. We can't give everything an equal share of our mind and our time, or else we risk ruining content and creating desensitization. Social media needs to break down into smaller, much more focused digital communities that adhere to specific interests, values, or causes. This approach replicates the Unix philosophy of doing one thing and doing it well much more closely than what we have now. Platforms like Reddit have already implemented this approach, but they still merge all of the communities into one centralized feed. I believe that smaller, decentralized communities can help give certain topics the dedicated space that they need to shine. The third and final key issue that I'd like to talk about in this speech is social media's compression of communication into a one-sided exchange. And I believe this, more than anything, boils down to the media part of social media. In the 1970s, Ward Christensen and Randy Suess invented the very first form of online social media, the computerized bulletin board system. This design was revolutionary for its time, but by today's standards, it's quite dated. In the 50 years since the creation of the bulletin board, there has been little attempt to rectify its shortcomings. It literally reflects a real-life bulletin board, allowing you to leave notes and images on there. But its fatal flaw is that it doesn't allow direct human-to-human interaction, and I believe it's the primary source of division on social media. It's much easier to be rude to an image or a wall of text than it is to be rude to a real, living human being. And in the 50 years since the creation of the bulletin board, there has been little innovation in the social media space as a whole. Today, we know the bulletin board as the feed, and it is the core of every single social media platform. But this outdated design will simply not do. When Facebook announced that they were becoming this new company called Meta, and they announced all of these metaverse transitions, I thought Mark Zuckerberg had a few screws loose initially. But now, I see what he was trying to do. He was trying to change that base medium that we've had for almost 50 years now and replace it with something brand new. It's still a huge gamble though, and it might not work, but if anything, it shows evidence that we're finally progressing beyond the initial phases of social media. So, as the solution to the final key issue of this talk, I'd like to propose that we move on from the bulletin board design. It's an outdated model and we need to move on. So, in summary, a single change in mindset, a flip of a switch almost, can allow us to make social media better. Because with every single update and iteration on social media, keeping this philosophy in mind, we're going to get closer to the ideal vision of the online world. I believe that social media is a gift, perhaps one of humanity's greatest in recent years. Yet it's also a tool, one that can be used to weave society together and simultaneously tear it apart. I believe that in the future we're going to see the rise of the technology required to facilitate these new ideas. So, in conclusion, social media's immense potential for connection is hindered by 3 key issues: its outdated design, its lack of specialization, and its misdirected focus on the individual. To improve, social media must shift from an individual-centric approach to a more community-centric approach. This way we can have much more meaningful conversations and connections on the internet. And secondly, social media needs to break down into smaller, more focused communities. This way we can combat content overload and we can fight desensitization. And thirdly, we need to start exploring new mediums that enable true two-way interaction that are better than the bulletin board system. Holding companies accountable and advocating for ethical practices is crucial. I believe that by leveraging new technologies and reshaping the idea of what social media is, we can help build a brighter online world. Together, let's build a brighter internet future.
Our next speaker is Ms. Lubna Ghaffar. Ms. Lubna is the founding head of Alternative Pathways at WEC and a strong advocate of the need to develop inclusive pathways for all. She has a keen interest in creating opportunities to identify, adopt, and adapt innovative teaching approaches and curricula for pupils that are tailored to their individual needs. Her ambition is to see a more widespread understanding of how alternative provision can provide an improved learning experience for many and not just a select few.
The title of her talk is Alternative Pathways, Custom Curricula for Neurodiverse Students. There are a number of developments regarding alternative curricula which are breaking down barriers not just for people with determination, but for neurotypical students as well. Lubna's talk explores the need for a shift towards a more bespoke curricula and a move away from the traditional way of learning. Please welcome on stage Ms. Lubna Ghaffar.
When you hear the term alternative provision, what is it that comes to mind? I'm here to talk about the need for us to offer options to our pupils now. Now, if you're from the UK, then the phrase alternative provision might remind you of what we call a pupil referral unit, or a PRU. A PRU is a setting, it's an alternative setting where pupils will go to when they need an additional level of support and care that they're not currently getting in their school environment. A PRU is not a special school. What it does have is highly qualified and experienced staff. Now, I'd like you to think about those words. Highly qualified and experienced staff. Teachers who are not of the one-size-fits-all mindset of learning. They are effective and they deploy a very holistic approach towards learning. Now, who would go to an alternative setting? There are children or people who may have truancy issues. They may have school denial or school phobia. There could be behavioral problems. Maybe they are young carers themselves. They could have medical needs that prevents them from being in a mainstream school. They could have any kind of additional needs. So there are a lot of positives to having an alternative provision for children who just are not getting what they need from their mainstream environment. And what you need to think about is that the teachers who work in these PRUs, in the alternative settings, they are experienced, as I said. They also have that holistic approach that let's see what's best for the child way of thinking. Now, the other thing that you need to consider about alternative settings or pupils who go there is, I'm so sorry, my mind's just gone blank. The other thing that you need to consider is the fact that we take the example of what they have, how that works, and we put it in the alternative. We take the alternative setting and we put it in the mainstream setting. The teachers they put a lot of emphasis on pastoral support, emotional support, excuse me. What could we then achieve if we could have a curriculum that is creative, that is designed around the child's needs? Something to think about. Now let's have a look at the alternative pathways or curriculum in a mainstream school. Why does that work really well? Well, the first thing you need to think about is that there is no reason for a child, if they're unhappy in their current setting, for them not to find another alternative pathway. And we work with what we have. So, for example, think of a library. Think of the way that it offers the opportunity to experience being in a workplace. So what I mean by that is employability skills. Now, the library can be so much more. It's a safe, familiar setting for children. We all know that. But it can give you a taste of what it's like to be in the workplace. For example, it teaches you those employability skills, such as working to deadlines, being responsible for your work environment, answering questions, employability skills, learning a new skill set, being answerable to the public, growing in confidence, being part of a community. Now, what we also need to think about is how an alternative curriculum can be described as a non-traditional way of teaching. You take small steps towards your goals. The progress is measured in a slightly different way. You've got to remember that when we're offering alternative provision, it's not just the result that matters, but it is the effort that takes you there in the first place. That's really important too. Teachers rethink, revise, and then revisit what is on offer. That's really important as well. It's flexible. It keeps changing with the needs. What we have is the opportunities that we have never had before, the opportunity of developing our children's functional and vocational skills, building a curriculum around them. That's what makes it so important. So if you have a look at skills building, which is what we do with our curriculum, can you imagine how far we could go if we built that curriculum around the child's particular needs? If we could give the teachers the flexibility of a curriculum that is not just measured in the traditional way, but also in functional and in vocational skills as well. Never before have we had the number of options available to us as we have now. We have exam boards who offer the traditional end of school qualifications thinking in this way now. And what they have is something that they refer to as the comprehensive qualifications for all ages and all learner types, and they teach them through practical skills, the practical skills that allow them to live, to learn, and to work effectively. what a difference that could make to our pupils. In closing, when I was at college, I read this poem by Robert Frost, and it still resonates. I think that is because it encapsulates the need for us to make that change now. Now, I'm not going to read the entire poem to you, but I will do the last few lines, and this is how it goes. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that made all the difference. It's time to make a difference.
So there's a great essay written by Sigmund Freud called On Transience, and in it he cites a conversation that he had with the poet Rilke as they were walking along this beautiful garden. And at one point, Rilke looked like he was about to tear up, and Freud said, "What's wrong? It's a beautiful day, there's beautiful plants around us, this is magnificent." And then Rilke says, "Well, I can't get over the fact that one day all of this is going to die. All these trees, all these plants, all this life is going to decay. Everything dissolves in meaninglessness when you think about the fact that impermanence is a really real thing. Perhaps the greatest existential bummer of all is entropy." And I was really struck by this because perhaps that's why when we're in love, we're also kind of sad. There's a sadness to the ecstasy, you know? Beautiful things sometimes can make us a little sad, and it's because what they hint at is the exception, a vision of something more, a vision of a hidden door, a rabbit hole to fall through, but a temporary one. And I think ultimately that is kind of the tragedy. That is why love simultaneously fills us with melancholy. So that's why sometimes I feel nostalgic over something I haven't lost yet, because I see its transience. And so how does one respond to this? Do we love harder? Do we squeeze tighter? Or do we embrace the Buddhist creed of no attachment? Do we pretend not to care that everything and everyone we know is going to be taken away from us? And I don't know if I can accept that. I think I more side with the Dylan Thomas quote that says, "I will not go quietly into that good night, but instead rage against the dying of the light." I think that we defy entropy and impermanence with our films and our poems. I think we hold onto each other a little harder and say, "I will not let go. I do not accept the ephemeral nature of this moment. I'm going to extend it forever. Or at least I'm going to try."
We are approaching the end of our series of talks. Our second to last speaker of the evening is Khail. Khail is a motivated and ambitious Year 13 student at the Academy. As a former head girl at her previous school and as the head of the events committee at the Academy, Khail has honed valuable skills in teamwork, organization, and strategic planning. Inspired by her keen interest in business and finance, Khail aspires to pursue a career as a corporate lawyer. Her ultimate goal is to leverage her skills and experiences as a woman in the corporate world to contribute to the growth and success of her family business, striving to elevate it to new heights of excellence.
The title of her talk is Beyond Self-Actualization, The Importance of Self-Transcendence. Abraham Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs is depicted as a triangle with self-actualization at the very top. Right before his death, Maslow wanted to add another level to the hierarchy, self-transcendence. Ruqayyah's talk explores the importance of this aspect of the human condition as we move into an increasingly technological and interconnected world. Please welcome on stage Ruqayyah Khamousi.
is now at a crossroad. No problem can be solved by the same consciousness that created it. We need to see the world anew. At its core, transcendence is the act of moving beyond or rising above something. It can refer to various types of experiences, specifically the act of moving beyond our limitations and connecting with something greater than ourselves. Scott Barry Kaufman is an American cognitive scientist. In his thought-provoking book, Transcend, the New Science of Self-Actualization, he explores the science of transcendence and its potential to unlock our fullest capabilities. He eloquently describes transcendence as a shift from the traditional pyramid-shaped hierarchy of needs to a boat-shaped structure. But why a sailboat, you might ask? Because transcendence is not a rare achievement to be ticked off, but rather an ongoing journey of self-improvement and growth towards a brighter future. It is a constant effort to evolve and strive for excellence in all aspects of our lives. The metaphor of a sailboat represents our journey towards transcendence, which begins with fulfilling our basic needs, symbolized by the boat itself. Once our basic needs are met, we start to feel movement and a sense of progress. However, that movement alone is not enough. We need something more, something that propels us towards growth and transcendence. That's when the sails of the sailboat open up, representing our personal and unique abilities that contribute to the betterment of humanity. Self-actualization is not just about realizing our full potential and embracing our uniqueness, but also about aligning with our true selves and understanding what we're truly capable of achieving. It's about recognizing what we're made of and trying to be the best version of ourselves. Transcendence, on the other hand, goes beyond the self. It's about looking outward and contributing to the betterment of humanity. It's about recognizing that we're part of a larger whole and using our abilities to make a positive impact on the world around us. Transcendence represents the next pinnacle of Maslow's hierarchy, encompassing a wide range of experiences that surpass the ordinary, fostering profound connection and growth and expanded awareness. A clinical psychologist by the name of Dr. Paul Wong suggested that there are 4 powerful features of self-transcendence that shape our mindset and actions. First, it requires a shift in focus from self to others, recognizing the interconnectedness and importance of all beings. Second, it entails a shift in values, valuing higher virtues such as kindness, compassion, and selflessness over materialist pursuits. Third, self-transcendence leads to an increase in moral concern, acknowledging the ethical implications of our actions and their impact on others and the world. Lastly, it involves experiencing emotions of elevation and profound joy and awe when witnessing acts of kindness and altruism. These features of self-transcendence empower us to elevate our perspectives. The 4 features of self-transcendence by Dr. Paul Wong can easily be incorporated into our individual lives. As a student, I have found that we can implement various strategies that help nurture us to become compassionate and responsible individuals as we leave the safety net of our education institutions. To encourage empathy and compassion, schools can incorporate activities like community service projects and cooperative learning. Promoting kindness, respect, and inclusivity can foster a shift in focus from self to others. Integrating moral education in the curriculum is another key approach. By teaching and reinforcing virtues such as honesty, integrity, and selflessness, we're able to engage in discussions about ethical issues. This enables us to develop a stronger moral compass and align ourselves with the true principles of self-transcendence. Celebrating acts of kindness and altruism is crucial. Schools can acknowledge and reward acts of compassion such as community service and volunteering by students, teachers, and staff. Sharing stories of positive contributions can reinforce the importance of self-transcendence principles. Self-transcendence is an important feature to focus on as it will help develop Humanity 2.0. But wait, what is Humanity 2.0? It envisions the next phase of human evolution, characterized by technological advancements, higher consciousness, and societal transformation. It represents a paradigm shift in how humans view themselves, others, and the world. Humanity 2.0 promotes the integration of AI and biotechnology to enhance capabilities and address global challenges. It fosters a holistic, sustainable worldview that recognizes interconnectedness. It encourages exploration, innovation, and conscious evolution for a harmonious world. Humanity 2.0 shifts focus from self-centeredness to a broader perspective. This expanded consciousness drives actions for greater good and the advancement of Humanity 2.0. As a young adult, I'm deeply concerned about the future and the challenges we face. I envision the good future as a society that emphasizes sustainable living, equal opportunities, and responsible innovation. A society with responsible technology use that is driven by innovation, which includes expanding horizons such as exploring the universe. The good future will embody values of equity, harmony, cooperation, problem solving, and critical thinking skills, with a focus on addressing global challenges and promoting well-being for all. So let us embark on this transformative voyage, propelled by the unwavering pursuit of a better tomorrow. Let us strive towards self-actualization and transcendence, embracing the metaphor of a sailboat, opening up our sails to show the world our true potential.
Our final speaker of the evening is Ms. Charlotte Hayden-Higgins. With a contagious love for learning, Ms. Charlotte is a highly passionate and enthusiastic teacher that teaches about the process of learning and the study of mathematics. She holds a first-class degree in mathematics and possesses over 10 years of teaching experience with a specialization in innovative teaching methods. She is also certified in Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, and her teaching expertise has been recognized through numerous acknowledgements. Ms. Charlotte is dedicated to inspiring students worldwide to reach their full potential and fall in love with mathematics through mindful mathematical techniques.
The title of her talk is Mathematical Mindfulness, Methods over Solution. Students often get stuck when solving problems in maths in ways that do not occur in history or creative arts, such as being unable to start to solve a problem or remember the next step in an equation. In her talk, Charlotte discusses why teaching mathematics will evolve into purposeful problem solving that results in students working on the process of getting stuck, embracing the journey of discovery and frustration, and thus learning transferable skills. Please welcome on stage Ms. Charlotte Hayden-Higgins.
Mathematical mindfulness. Now, before I see all those cringing faces, give me a moment. You're probably thinking, what does mindfulness and mathematics have to do with each other? Why are they even in the same sentence? Well, first of all, for those of you who are students, listen to this to improve your grades. For those of you who are adults, listen to this because this will help you solve your problems. And let's face it, everybody has problems. So let's embark on a journey of discovering what mathematical mindfulness is together. Mindfulness is being in the present moment, focusing on being intensely aware and fully engaged. Mathematical mindfulness is something we're going to take a look at the end of this talk. It was once the case that you needed to know how to perform simple arithmetic calculations, simple mathematical calculations to live your day-to-day lives. However, now, with the increase and improved technology, you're able to have calculators just at the click of a button on your phones. The majority of the world has access to smartphones. In fact, talking about phones, have you noticed the development of phones over the last 100 years? It's absolutely phenomenal. We've gone from phones attached on a cord to mini computers at our fingertips. Yet, looking at classrooms over the last 100 years, learning and teaching hasn't much changed. And make sure you focus on the fact that I said learning and teaching. Okay, we've gone from blackboards to interactive whiteboards. However, it is still common to see a teacher at the front with students either in desks or rows, and the teacher within a mathematics lesson will normally give an example, and then the students, they go away and they do some exercises. And they love it. They love getting the answers right. Yeah, there might be some problem-solving questions in there. However, over my years of teaching, I've noticed students are focused on solutions. They want to do a question, great, tick, move on. Miss, next question, great, tick, move on. That's all they're focusing on. When in actual fact, we should be focusing on something else. So let's take a look at an example. 11 times 23. I'll just give you a moment to work it out. I didn't choose a hard maths question for you. Okay, so I could see some of you actually used your smartphones. Some of you even used your smartwatches. Some of you sat there and thought intently, which is fantastic. The answer is 253. Give yourself a tap on the shoulder if you got it right. Would it surprise you to know that I could actually spend a whole hour on this question? I could teach this for a whole hour. We could discover with the students. We could look at all the different ways, starting with 11 times 23 and ending with 253. Some of you, who are a little bit older, might remember long multiplication. Some of the younger generation, in primary school, you might have seen the box method. Okay, so a lot of people would probably start with this if they were writing it down on paper trying to work it out. Some people, if they do it in their head, they like to split it up. 11 times 23. Well, 11 is the same as 10 plus 1. 10 lots of 23 plus 1 lot of 23. Again, another beautiful method. The Japanese, they've started using visual representations, using the lines. And where they intersect is what would give you the answer. My personal favorite is a trick my dad taught me. He said to me, right, Charlotte, this only works for the 11 times table, okay? So you get your two numbers, 2 and 3. You add them together, and what do you get? 5. You just squeeze it in there. So 11 times 23, 2 plus 3 is 5, 2, 5, 3. 11 times 42. Well, what's 4 plus 2? 6. So squeeze it in, 4, 6, 2. And this will work for anything multiplied by 11 unless the two numbers add to more than 9. However, I'm not going to tell you why, because it took me a while to figure that out. It was only when I started teaching that I actually took the time to figure out, wait a minute, why does this trick work and what are its limitations? All the beautiful ways that we've just discussed then, and there are many, many more. Building these connections is important. We should be focusing on the different methods to get to the answer. We should be focusing on which one is the most efficient and why. Why does the Japanese method with the lines work? Does anyone know? Instead of just focusing on getting the answer, 2, 5, 3, great, tick, move on. This is going to sound so cheesy. You guys have seen this in the shop. It's probably in some of your bathrooms. You know that quote, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. That is exactly what you can apply when you are trying to solve a problem or a mathematical equation. It is about the journey, looking at the different methods. However, I know a lot of people are hesitant sometimes within mathematics. They don't like it. I know it's not easy for some of you, and that's okay. Because within mathematics, you build skills that you're going to need in your lives. The world is changing vastly with AI, automated stuff that's happening on computers. People are going to be out of jobs. However, something that AI isn't going to be capable of doing is problem solving, critical thinking. Maybe in a few years' time, but right now, it's great for admin tasks. So when you're stuck in a problem and you want to get unstuck, you need to remember a few things. You need to remember that you need to have some willingness to learn, some willingness to think differently, a willingness to make mistakes, and a willingness to be mindful about mathematics. You have to be able to communicate with mathematical literacy, and that is an individual's capacity to reason mathematically. Now, you're probably sat here like, oh, what does that even look like? So I'm going to take you to an example that happened within my classroom. I am not expecting you to read this question. However, it's just so you can visually see that this question, a GCSE-style question, was given to my students. And there's no pictures, there's no diagrams, it's quite wordy. Within the mark scheme, there are actually 3 different methods you could use to solve this problem. So it's a fantastic question to get those brains moving. So I said to the students, okay, we need to focus on being mindful about mathematics, and also we need to focus on our mathematical literacy. We need to be able to reason. To enhance that experience for them, I made sure that the students wrote their questions on a sticky note so that they could refer to it. They know what they're asking me, I'm going to answer literally. So, here are one of the questions. Now remember, I am answering their question literally. And if you read this question, it actually says, can you please explain this cube? Now, really think about this question. They're asking me to explain a letter. This letter is Q. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Q. What is it? It's the 17th letter in the alphabet. And that's what I responded. My student was like, what? No, miss, that's not what I meant. Like, explain this Q? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. It's also lowercase. They're like, no. And I'm like, you haven't reasoned with me mathematically what you know, what you don't know, what you need. So I said, go away, give it your best shot, come back in a minute. In the meantime, another student came to me, and I know where this question came from, and I love it. I did start laughing, because I always say to my students, you saw how wordy that question was. There was no diagrams, no visuals, it wasn't very nice. And I would say, when in doubt, draw it out. So I knew exactly where this was coming. They said, miss, how do you do a drawing? Which is great, because they want to see the problem visually. So, again, I was a little bit sarcastic. I said, just get your pen, write it on paper, you'll be fine. They're like, no, miss, that's not what I meant. I said, I know that's not what you meant, this is what you've asked. So we took a pause. We discussed about the different connections being made in mathematics. A lot of the students, miss, I really don't know what to do. Okay, well, tell me what you can do, and then tell me what you need in order to get the next step. We don't have to get to the solution in one step. This is a fantastic diagram, a network. And those big circles, they're called nodes. And this is actually a representation of all the skills needed to access mathematics at a secondary level. The 2 biggest nodes, those 2 big red dots, is actually multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. It's fantastic because that means that this is the basis of everything. Everyone in this room can add, take away, multiply, divide, and that is what you need for a lot of problems. That is what you need for a lot of mathematics. You can see the connections. This network was created by William Emeny, and I think it's a fantastic visual representation. The different colors are the different strands of mathematics. So you have number, algebra, geometry, probability, statistics. So we had a lovely discussion, and then the magic happened. And this, honestly, brought joy to my heart. This was the type of question I was getting. Miss, how do you find the length of a line using coordinates? Wow. Now, for some of you, you might not understand how incredible this is, but I am telling you now, what they have shown me is they know they need to find the length of a line. They've also shown me that they know they have coordinates. I reminded them of Pythagoras and how actually just because we're not given the lengths and we're given coordinates, we could still work out the lengths and then use Pythagoras. Phenomenal breakthrough. I was so proud. Another question like this came in. Miss, now this one was great. I didn't expect anyone to go for this method either. And this is a very strange method because it's quite hard to visualize, but it just shows what an amazing critical thinker and problem solver this student is. How do you move 3 halves along a line? How do you do that? Well, what's quite interesting is you could do that using ratios or vector methods. This was incredible. This was what being mindful about mathematics and focusing on the methods rather than the solutions gave the students. They are making connections. They are understanding that mathematics is a journey of joy. Let's face it, it's also a journey of frustration. We've all been there. However, it is a journey to beautiful, beautiful links that open in your mind so that you can become a better problem solver and a better critical thinker. I want you to remember that sometimes you can get to a solution, and you know what they say, don't fix something that's not broken. However, different methods allow for different thinking. They allow you to see what's efficient, what isn't, and it opens your brain. If you're a parent or a teacher, and someone comes to you and they've solved a question, say to them, can you do it a different way? Get them to go away and think. Get them to start making those connections. I want you to be mindful. To be mindful that when you're doing repetitive exercise, it's not just about keep going with the exercises, doing a process. Why are you doing this? For what purpose? And remember that the journey is more important than the destination. So, what is mathematical mindfulness? It is an awareness of what you know, and what you know, you don't know, in order to progress.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of today's conference. We hope you found today's talks thought-provoking and inspiring. The videos of today's talks will be uploaded on the TEDx website in due course and will be available to view online.
But before you leave, we would like to request our principal, Mr. Campbell Douglas, to say a few words. Please welcome on stage Mr. Campbell Douglas.
Good evening, everyone. In wanting to fully embrace today's theme around future thinking, I typed the following into ChatGPT. I'm a tired, run-down principal of a school hosting a TEDx event in the last week of term. I have no energy left to write a thank you speech. The participants in the TEDx event are amazing students and staff at our school. The theme of the event is Fast Forward, the future is better than we think. Rohan Roberts is our brilliant, innovative organizer. Please write a 2-minute thank you speech that ends this event. So I thought I would just read back exactly what I got. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, esteemed participants, and cherished members of our school community, what an incredible journey we have embarked upon today. As the curtains draw to a close on this momentous TEDx event, it is with immense gratitude and pride that I stand before you to extend my heartfelt thanks. First and foremost, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to the brilliant minds and passionate souls who took the stage today, our students and staff. Your unwavering dedication, perseverance, and creativity have been truly awe-inspiring. You have fearlessly shared your ideas, visions, and stories, embodying the theme of the event, Fast Forward, the future is better than we think. I am in awe of your profound insights at the diverse perspectives and the thought-provoking conversations that have unfolded throughout this evening. Each and every speaker has demonstrated the power of imagination, innovation, and collaboration, leaving us filled with hope and excitement for the future. I must also extend my gratitude to our organising committee and volunteers led by the exceptional Rohan Roberts. Rohan's visionary leadership, tireless efforts, and unwavering commitment to excellence have been instrumental in bringing this event to life. His dedication and innovative approach have set a high standard for organising events that inspire and uplift our school community. To Rohan, I thank you for your meticulous planning, attention to detail, and the countless hours you have devoted to ensuring the success of this event. Your passion and commitment have created a platform for our speakers to shine on this prestigious stage. I would also like to express my deepest appreciation to our parents and families. It's a bit longer than 2 minutes, sorry. To our families and students who have supported our staff and students throughout this journey. Your encouragement, belief, and love have nurtured the seeds of brilliance within our community. We are forever grateful for your unwavering support. Lastly, I would like to thank each and every one of you, our esteemed guests. Your presence here today has made this event all the more special. Your engagement, enthusiasm, and open-mindedness have created an atmosphere of inspiration and empowerment. As we come to the end of this incredible event, let us remember that the future is not some distant entity. It is unfolding before us at this very moment. Thank you. So that's pretty good, right? I mean, it's probably a bit more effusive and over the top than I would have been, but it certainly encapsulates everything I thought about this event. It's amazing, and as always, Rohan has done something fabulous here for our staff and our students, and has really created this event as being a legacy event for our school. I also would have I've probably focused a little bit more on the community, like this is a WEC community event, and it's our staff and our students that get to shine here today. So thank you so much for coming here and joining us in this. We certainly look forward to next year's event as well. Thank you so much.
I'm feeling my heart beating with the rhythm of her body slowly moves. I love this feeling. Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't deny